Hey everyone, welcome to The Creek. My name is Jared Miller and I'm the ministry lead here. And by the time this video goes live, kids have finished their very first week of school. And almost 500,000 families across Alberta have completed one of the scariest, one of the weirdest, and one of the most challenging times that they've ever had. Here's the good news. You did it. The famous cliche that says that every journey begins with a single step is absolutely true for you today. Congratulations. But here's the bad news. This was the easy week. Next month, next week, next couple weeks is where it actually gets hard, as the inevitable media reports of school outbreaks and our social media feeds and the great human question will bubble to the surface. Did I do the right thing? The nagging, lingering self-doubt that is the hallmark of parenthood in 2020 is, I fear, just over the horizon. So my team and I wanted to put together a playlist for you. This is the first video in this, and if you're watching this, welcome to The Creek. We knew that this week was going to be a big one for parents, and so we began by thinking about how we might conceptualize a series like this. And from the outset, let me say, if you are a parent of school-age kids, my wife and I are praying for you. If you are a teacher, or if you are an administrator, or if you clean the hallways in a school, my wife, my team, and I are praying for you. We can't imagine everything that you're going through, and so whether you're religious or not, if you're seeing this, we're praying for you. But in undergrad, I took an intro to ethics class because it seemed like the science of argument to me. And my assumption was that all that ethicists do is really just try to be right or prove that they're right and the other person is wrong all the time. To me, this was a deeply appealing reality, and though I was quickly disabused of my notion, my supervisor at the time repeatedly reminded me that ethics is seldom a choice between good and evil, and more often a choice between better and best. And living between better and best could easily be the slogan for Back to School 2020. Maybe you're wondering what ethics has to do with back to school. But just because ethics is less about being right than I wanted it to be when I was young, doesn't mean it doesn't have something meaningful to say to you practically today. At its root, ethics is about human nature, our unconscious instincts, and the way we organize ourselves. Ethics includes morality, but it's more expansive than morality. Ethics is the coffee you buy and the food you consume. It's the shows that you watch and the music that you listen to. It's the books you read and the way you choose to spend your free time. Ethics is how you do your work, and it's how you structure your day. But most importantly, ethics is your vision of the good life that all of those other pieces play into. So what we wanted to do was offer you a 3-video playlist this week as this first week of the school year winds down. Today we want to give you 3 ethical practices for thinking about the start of the school year, and we're calling these practices because they aren't supposed to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect at these. Then we've got a video looking at what it means to commit your heart to something, and then we have an amazing conversation that we got to have with Deanne Barrett, who is the founder of Gratitude Works Incorporated and the host of the Radiant Mom podcast. And we had a chat about preparing yourself for what comes next. And so make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button down below to stay connected with us here at The Creek. But for now, how are you supposed to think ethically about being back at school? Number 1, practice moderation. One of the first, if not the first book written specifically on the subject of ethics was by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. He imagined ethics as a kind of golden pathway between competing extremes. A firefighter acts ethically by finding a sweet spot between running away from fire, the rational response, and rushing into it, the impulsive response. It's not spilling any tea today to say that our kind of current culture disincentivizes moderation, and it's not particularly subtle about it. Living in the age of algorithms, click the video here to find out what that means, has helped us find a tribe as diverse and complex people, but has also divided nearly every area of our lives. Our politics, social groupings, and beliefs, our media are all increasingly polarized. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as polarization has risen, there's been a corresponding climb in depression, anxiety, and other mental health related diagnoses. I get that correlation is not causation, but I'm not the first one to point this out. Aristotle's point here, though, is that there is an intrinsic value to moderation in our lives. Everyone sees themselves as basically reasonable and rational people, as a human being making complicated choices in an unprecedented time. Moderation asks us to recognize that neither our subjective experience of the world around us nor our objective assessment of anyone else's experience is the whole story. Instead, we're invited to experience others as an event, to paraphrase the French philosopher Alain Badiou. To view each situation that emerges as a complex symphony of inputs and outputs that wants to resist simplicity. Moderation is the practice of viewing other people and other situations as complexly as possible and recognizing that our world is a world in process. It is not done yet. Number 2, practice intentionality. The German philosopher, who's sometimes called the father of modern ethics, Immanuel Kant, proposed a litmus test for life. Live, he wrote, in such a way that by your own volition that action would become a natural law. Basically, the ethical act is one you could live with if it happened to you over and over and over again. Just like if I step down off a stool, my foot connects to the ground. Kant asked, what if our ethics could be applied universally in the same way? Now, this is by no means a perfect idea, but I've always loved what's at its core. Are you acting or are you reacting? Or, as a podcast I recently heard put it, are you paying attention to what you're paying attention to? It's easy to let things happen on autopilot. Some things even need to happen that way. But as the school year gets going, understanding not only who you are as a family, but who your kids are as individuals is critical. What are the things that are really and truly important and valuable, both to you and to them? Where have you spent your time and your resources trying to go? And is that the place you actually want to be? Or is it just where you seem to end up? Living ethically means equipping your family to decide ultimately what your values are going to be as a family and leaning into them. Practicing what Kant called the categorical imperative is a deeply imperfect act. But my contention is that it's probably better than any of the alternatives. And finally, number 3, practice authenticity. The heart and soul of any ethical system is, does it create a greater good for a greater and growing number of people? And now more than ever, we need a broad, generous ethic of kindness in our schools and in our neighborhoods. Authenticity is the practice of recognizing that whatever anxiety-ridden choices we make here and now, or in the next little while, we are in this foxhole with our neighbors. There is a necessary ethic of mutuality at play right now in our world, and however you want to approach it, whatever frame you want to put it in, it boils down to this most basic idea. Take care of each other. This is perhaps the most important ethical decision or discussion that we can have at any point. Are we being our neighbor's keepers? Are we insisting on our way of doing things, or are we putting the needs of others first? If the categorical imperative was exhausting, this is terrifying. It could hold us out to dry as the only ones who don't get our way. But my question at the end of the day is always this. We've tried every other way, and how well has that worked out for us? There's 3 ethical practices that we would love to know how you're practicing and how you're trying and how you're doing with them during the school year. If you have any questions or want resources for facing the school year, so shoot us an email, jared@thecreek.life, or leave a message down in the comments. We'll be in there checking periodically. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Creek channel to get all of our content as we continue through this journey back to school with you. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.